আপনারা দেখছেন কমিউনিটি ম্যাটার্স।
সৌজন্যে মাহবুব অ্যান্ড কো অ্যাকাউন্টেন্টস।
Welcome back to the third and final part of this very special edition of Community Matters. We're talking about Fashion Revolution Day. With that in mind, we have another question from our audience. Aduni Haruna, who's a runway model from London. I believe you have a question.
I do. What would you say are the values of eco-fashion? Once again, what would you say are the values of eco-fashion? And how is this considered to be relevant to today's society?
Thank you. Carrie, you want to do that? Eco-fashion. What is eco-fashion?
Yeah, I mean, eco-fashion is so broad. Eco-fashion really is fashion, but it's better fashion. Okay. So it would be, or it should be, very hard to distinguish from just looking at a garment whether it's eco-fashion or not, because really eco-fashion should, and it does.
Is there a difference in the making process?
There is a difference. Exactly. I mean, eco-fashion is just as beautifully crafted as mainstream fashion, but when you look behind it, you see that the social standards and the environmental standards will be higher. So it might be people who are upcycling from waste, which can be the offcuts of other designers, so you can get really incredible quality fabrics. Sure. It could be people, it could be made in the UK, so you've got a short and traceable supply chain which tells you where the garments are made and who's making them. It could be fair trade, it could be young designers who are working ethically with small groups either in Europe or in developing countries. So really the whole idea of eco-fashion is very broad, and people do have different values, different priorities, but everybody is working towards the same goal of making the fashion industry more sustainable. I mean, we actually sell in some of the top luxury stores around the world. And I
was just going to ask, is eco-fashion more expensive than normal things that you'd buy in the shop? You want to come in here?
Sometimes it is, because it's manufactured properly. Okay. Everybody's being paid what they should be paid, and I think that's the thing, because fashion has become so cheap where you can end up paying more for a sandwich than you can for a t-shirt. And that really shouldn't be the case, because then you know there's a problem. You know, if you're paying more, if you can get a t-shirt for 2 pence, you know there's something wrong with that. Something is going wrong with that chain. But just talking about the label eco-fashion, to me that's a manufactured label. You know, it's a manufactured term, because in reality all fashion should be ecological, all fashion should be ethical. Really, this is a term that we've put on because it's not, and that really shouldn't be the case. Eco-fashion is, as Kerry demonstrated, you know, what is commonly understood to be something which is more sustainable. It's a form of practice which takes into account the garment makers, you know, fair trade, upcycling. All of these things come under that banner, but in reality what we should be doing is we shouldn't have to use that label. All fashion should be ethical.
Okay, all right.
I mean, isn't it simply about the sources and justice, really? I mean, if you really were very simple in your ambition.
And I think also what's really important to say, and I think a statistic which shocks a lot of people, is that apparently if all of the factories in Bangladesh reach the standard which is needed to have safe building structures and to reach the standards of the Fire and Building Safety Code, it would add 6 pence onto every garment.
Which is nothing in a way, if you think about it. Okay, I believe we have another question from our audience. Rosemary Lloyd, who's a model from London. Rosemary?
Good evening, NTV. The question I would like to ask, following the Rana Plaza, what is the Bangladesh government doing to improve working conditions for the garments workers?
I think we can start here. Are you aware? You've obviously got links with government being in Bangladesh, to the best of your knowledge.
As a member of the all-party parliamentary group on Bangladesh, and chairing it, having chaired it for 7 years, I have some ideas, and I have regular sort of, you know, connections to what's going on. And our parliamentary group also undertook a studies in Bangladesh to look at post-Rana Plaza. What I would say is that it is not in the interest of Bangladesh for the garment industries to be reduced, because the economic you know,
80% reliant.
Exactly. So I think that that is really important. That's why it is in all our interest, including Bangladesh interest, not just to make sure that there are 87 amendments, but to make sure that those are implemented and they're monitored. Absolutely. I know that Bangladesh post Rana Plaza, British government has committed 18 million pounds to just ensure that the infrastructure of the you know this garment industries are strengthened, and making sure that they're monitored properly and advise them on what else needs to happen, because pretty sooner or later we would have international traders withdrawing from Bangladesh. So I think regulations is important, but implementation is critical.
Aziz Bhai, you've got anything to add to this, to the best of your knowledge, your dealings?
BGMA has
Who are
3,000. They are the sorry, Bangladesh Garment Manufacturers Exporters Association.
Okay.
They have nearly 3,000 members. And in order to become a member, they have to have compliances, rules, regulations has to be followed.
Okay.
But as I said earlier, recent survey showed that 60% people are not in compliance.
Okay.
Now, I think it's important the government plays an active role, is that they have maybe an independent body created, I'm not sure they have yet, that who are actually regulating, making sure it is implemented.
Mm-hmm.
Implementation is the problem, is the issue. We know there are a lot of bribery and backhanders going on, and people are just managing through other means of showing certificates and producing papers. That needs to stop. And in order to stop that, obviously, you know, there are strict regulations have been set, but still, I don't think it's enough. Not I think, but it's been said by the Union of World Labour policymakers. They said it's not enough. They need to go more further.
Sure.
I mean, Rana Plaza situation demonstrated that many were working in imprisoned condition almost, and that has to stop. And Bangladesh government has a huge role in making sure that happens.
And I think also this is why Fashion Revolution Day is very important, is because the implementation isn't happening. What we need to do is to reconnect the supply chain so we can bring the truth, we can bring the message from the cotton farmer, from the woman who's dyeing the fabric, from the weavers, from the seamstresses in the factory, and they can speak directly to the consumers. So if we start to reconnect the supply chain, and we're going to have something on our website about Meet Your Maker, so it really is about empowering the workers, empowering all the makers and giving them a voice on the day, which I think is crucially important for change.
So and I think it's very important and it's really relevant. I think there was a meeting in Geneva late last year, and I think the recommendation was something like compensation of 47 million to be paid by the companies. Out of the 23 companies who actually produce garments in Rana Plaza, only 9 attended the meeting, and people like brand, like if I can say it, is that Walmart, part of who are producing garments there, did not turn up, and Benefit is another group who didn't turn up. Yet they have not taken, the government need to do more to make sure this money which has been pledged, that it is utilized into the right people, to the right areas, and the people who have been affected, the people who have died, their families are looked after, the injured people are looked after, the money is utilized in a right, proper channel to the people who most need it, who have been affected. I think it's important.
That's a really important point in terms of consumers putting pressure on the businesses then putting pressure to their factories and the people who are taking care of them abroad, and also the government ensuring that they play a role in implementing all of the different changes that we want to take place.
Okay, thank you. We have, I think, one final question from Hafsa Islam, who's a community activist from Newham in London.
It's been touched upon, the question I was going to ask, but see if we can highlight a bit more on that question. Has there been any changes to the rules of regulation and building future infrastructure projects like Rana Plaza?
We've talked about, I think we've already touched on the fact that the building, the Rana Plaza building itself, it was built in a place that wasn't meant to have a building more than, was it 5 stories?
Exactly. This is the really worrying thing, isn't it? With the Rana Plaza factory, we knew that the building wasn't housed to equip you know, this sort of equipment. You know, it wasn't there for factory equipment either, because we know they're very weighty garments. The ground that it was built upon was shoddy ground. It was, you know, it was swampy ground. There should never have been a building put in there. The other elements that come into place were the owners of the factories, and as to how they got permission to build such a building, and then how they may have actually got the possibility for an extension on that building. It was 5 floors and wanted 9.
This kind of comes on to what you said earlier about the whole corruption element, and then we need to be more ethical about everything we do. But to the best of knowledge for both of you, are you aware of 1 year on, has there been any changes in regulations in terms of, so that kind of incident doesn't happen? You don't have, you know, permission for 5 stories and somebody goes and builds 10 stories.
Well, the recent television, I saw a news where somebody saw a crack. One of the workers reported it, and workers were evacuated from that building. So that's come out of that. In the past, they've seen cracks, they've seen bigger cracks, and people just were told. In fact, I heard stories about being locked up and carry on with the work they were doing. So at least that has created this awareness, and I think people are now much more wary and much more concerned when there are some problems within the factory to highlight it, whistleblowers.
I would say that I think the numbers of whistleblowers have increased, but if you talk to the labor union people, they will say the protection that they're receiving is much as limited as it was before. I think what's very important as a result of this day, one day, I hope that there'll be such a long-lasting impact on the industry. Not only will Bangladesh government sort of sit up and say, yes, we need to work with, you know, these group of people to ensure that what we are providing is ethical and moral, because we have responsibility for people, not just one and not just two, not, you know, but this 1,100, but all those people who are injured. And I think it's also very important that Bangladesh government does not want to lose the trade, and neither do those men and women who work, for whom it is their livelihood. So if we can have give them some assurance that what we're working towards is proper standard, proper values, proper system, proper respect for their labor, then I'm confident that we will receive more reports when things are wrong, and then there will be system in place. That's my dream, that there will be systems in place as a result of the efforts that they're all doing, and we are all wanting to support that. Such thing is really only a small potential, like in the West.
All right, Carrie, we're in the last minute of the program. Tell us the message that you want to give to our viewers. How can they get involved? Remind us again when Fashion Revolution Day is.
Fashion Revolution Day is the 24th of April, and we want you to be curious, to find out and to do something about it. So we want you to wear an item of clothing inside out, and then contact the brand, say, dear so-and-so, please can you tell me who made my clothes, with the hashtag inside out. And that's what we want everyone to do all around the world. And we hope that if we take this one small step, that brands will realise that there is an appetite for change, and they will start to take a bigger step and actually continue that process of change and start to be more transparent.
Can I say thank you to the panel members? Thank you so much for taking your time to talk about this particular day. Can I say thank you to our audience for making it here and participating in the show. For those of you watching at home, if you enjoyed listening to Carrie and want to find out more, just go visit their website, fashionrevolutionday.org. Is that right?
Fashionrevolution.org.
Fashionrevolution.org. And you'll get more information, and you can find out more about how you can get involved. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Good night.